At BlackRock, we understand Bitcoin and Bitcoiners. That's why we're proud to partner with Citadel construction projects around the world to provide best-in-class property management to Bitcoin citadels and their citizens. BlackRock knows real Bitcoiners don't have time to deal with homeownership, property taxes, or unexpected costs like repairing your own roof. Bitcoiners understand real estate is a shitcoin. That's why Bitcoiners all across the globe trust BlackRock to be their landlord. BlackRock will handle all the stress and red tape of compliance to make sure your Citadel is up to code so you can focus on raising your family and being able to afford taxes. If you're building a thermodynamically sound Citadel for Bitcoiners and their families, choose BlackRock Property Management.
Los Angeles is burning, devastating one of the global hubs for Bitcoin podcasting. The price of Bitcoin is crashing because the Fed is being gay with interest rates. Dennis Porter is bogged down with petty disputes with individuals who are jealous of his announcements. The Biden administration is working on selling Ross Ulbricht's coins they stole from him before Trump gets into office. The news looks bearish. But are you bearish? Of course not, because you understand game theory as a result of listening to 40 hours of Bitcoin podcasts every week for years. Podcast listeners around the country are scrambling in a desperate attempt to find dry powder to buy the dip. They know this is an opportunity, not a setback, and that everything is going according to plan. The number will go up again because this is a bull market. The number will go up because they listen to Bitcoin podcasts. The number will go up again because Dennis Porter will settle his disputes, allowing him to focus on important price-influencing announcements. There is no reason to fret. Put your trust in our Lord and Savior Satoshi, as well as the credentialed opinions of the hosts of this podcast. You are listening to the Bugle Weekly podcast, the most thermodynamically sound podcast in Bitcoin.
Alrighty, welcome to this, the Bugle Weekly. This is your research. Joining me today, as usual, is Ron Palmer back from vacation. Second episode back from vacation. So I was thinking today that we would take the time to do a recap of 2024. Since I got Rod back in the studio, I did a little bit of a recap on the last Bugle Weekly episode, just kind of like a review of some things. But today I wanted to talk about like down stats, what we're looking at, who our biggest supporters are. I did a Stacker News post a couple weeks ago that I just wanted to go over. And yeah, but before we get into that, how you doing today, Ron? What's going on with you?
I'm doing great. Was a very dramatic week on the timeline. I was really enjoying it. A lot of announcements, really bullish announcements. So feeling very bullish right now. But yeah, I forgot, last night I came back from vacation, but that was on Behind the Podcast. I'm excited to reflect on last year. It was a great year for the Bugle.
It was a great year for the Bugle. It really seemed like the Bugle got a little bit more serious. We had some more people join and begin helping in a more serious manner. Most noteworthy one was you. When did you specifically? How long have you been? We've been doing the podcast for less than a year.
Yeah, I joined probably in Q4 of 2023, and we were writing about anti-Swanitism, just stop ordinals, and things like that. But we started, really accelerated when we started the podcast it was after we took over Bitcoin Magazine on April Fool's, I think, when it really kicked off.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the first quarter last year was very eventful. So we had March Maxi Madness. That was huge. That was a hit. And then we rolled into the Bitcoin Magazine takeover. Had some killer stories in that. That was a lot of fun.
And then we had the compliance tournament. The compliance tournament was a real hit. Again, congratulations to Peter McCormick. He won. He went out on top. Peter McCormick won the Bugle's compliance tournament and promptly retired from Bitcoin podcasting. That's like, Sometimes a quarterback wins the Super Bowl, and that's when he retires, and it's called going out on top. And that's what we did. And it was, that the podcast, the tournaments, all of the action kind of leading up to the Bitcoin conference in Nashville. The Bugle kind of burst on the scene for the first time. We've been building the intellectual Silk Road, writing credential journalism, but it caught on, and all that hard work paid off.
Definitely.
And we are now shifting into gear. Like you said, we're more serious, we're more focused, because we're getting ready for the bull market. And that is when when Bitcoin podcasts are the most important. So we've got to lock in, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Bitcoin podcasting is secular, right? So it goes with the market cycle. So, for essentially 3 years, you're just trying to survive as a podcast, right? You're trying to earn just enough cigarette money on Fountain to be able to, provide for your family. And then in the bull market, you know that your boosts are going to go up. The values of your boosts are going to go up. People are going to be running around feeling rich. Their trading strategy is going to be working for the first time. They're going to be making money, and they're going to want to direct that back at podcasters. And so essentially it's really a feast for a short amount of time, or at least that's how it's worked historically.
Yeah. And I think a really good topic and theme that we all learned in 2024, that when you get into the Bitcoin podcasting game, and you start, your proof of work starts to pay off, and you start to get a lot of Fountain boosts. You start to get in the Fountain top podcast rankings, like the top 10. You're going to start being confronted with the influences, the pressures, the psyops from PodConf. And you're going to have to learn how to interact with PodConf and how to navigate the manipulation that will inevitably come your way from PodConf in your own way. And you want to kind of get to a point where you're independent and you don't have to worry about PodConf anymore, but they will still sell your t-shirts at Bitcoin conferences. That's kind of like the perfect relationship basis. Would you agree with that, or do you have a different take?
Yeah. PodConf definitely likes to try and scout the talent, and they like to try and sink their fangs into you if they see you to be valuable to them. It starts what kind of seems to be an innocent way.
Here's a good example. If you're a young Bitcoin podcaster and you want to catch PodConf's attention, one thing you could do is dye a part of your bangs blonde. That will be a huge hit right away. Or be a based hot chick who is really open to doing Bitcoin podcast ads for carnivore meat companies.
Yeah. Another way to get PodConf's attention is to just follow the Luke Broyles playbook.
Yeah, that is the uber Welsh child wonder who is much smarter than his years, who carries himself like a macro elder that is still in undergraduate school, hasn't even taken macroeconomics 2 yet, but he's listed enough podcasts that he's not going to have to pay attention in class in order to get an A. Sometimes they drop out though, and they become macro analyst chart boys themselves. I mean, look at Dylan McClare. He's now running the highest performing stock in the Japanese economy. So that's huge.
A lot of people aspiring to be influencers, what they need to understand is just a way to play their strengths, whatever it is, right? So if you're fat and ugly, you have to come off as really smart to kind of overpower the lack of looks that you got. If you're genuinely unattractive, you can always go the privacy, the Monero influencer.
you can always stay in, even when you go to conferences or you go to meetups and you run the risk that one of your biggest fans or followers is a Fed, is a spook. Then, I mean, you can wear a mask and perfectly conceal your identity, even at podcast conference or at Bitcoin conferences, as long as you're a privacy influencer. However, it is going to attract fans. Love those. They're their biggest. They love listening to those podcasts. So it's going to be hard to know if a spook is the government agent working against you or just your biggest fan.
Like one of the things that Luke Broyles has done really well is he's identified one of his strengths. So like, you know, if you're a young person, what you need to do is you need to go get yourself into a niche, right? Like Bitcoin, like knitting or any other niche in which there's influencers, like Linux. There's Linux influencers, there's Python influencers, there's all these various niches that are out there, these small groups, and all you have to do is you just have to show up in the group, have a very basic understanding of whatever you're talking about, and just raise your hand and say, hey, I'm a Zoomer. And then all of a sudden, all these old people will be like, oh, wow, like we want to encourage the youth. And then all of a sudden, you know, you get approached by PodConf and they want to promote you. And it might turn out that you're not exceptional in any way, but like when you're young, you want to use that as a strength, right? It is a strength, essentially. Like you don't want to waste your youth having not been an influencer in some small niche, because you have to use your youth to build a platform in which then to build a career of influencing on top of, right? Nick Carter did this. Will Clemente did this. Luke Broyles is doing this. I'm sure there's going to be many other young boy wonder. Like, you know, Dylan LeClaire has done this, but the thing about Dylan LeClaire is I think he's actually smart, right? Another way to, like, if you're fat and ugly, so like British Hodl's like a good example. The way to do things like British Hodl is to just brag about how rich you are. And you have to
smoke cigars. You gotta smoke cigars. You gotta look like you live a very sophisticated life because you are a sophisticated macro Bitcoin podcaster and you're trading with leverage. You are all in. And why would somebody follow you and listen to what you're talking about if you don't look successful?
Totally. One of the best studies or case studies of this phenomenon, which we're talking about, is BitBoy, Ben Armstrong.
Well, you mean he bought Lamborghinis? Oh, look at Richard Hart. Richard Hart had Rolexes. He had Gucci suits. He had 2 different Lamborghinis. I mean, who's the king of this, right? It's Andrew Tate. Everybody knows that Andrew Tate is highly successful. He is the alpha predator of the Bitcoin community. I mean, he just called out, we talked about this, he called out Peter McCormick. He took out, I mean, the biggest podcaster in the space, and he just kind of bitch slapped him, called him gay and fat. And he wears Rolexes, and he has tons of women. That is how people, I mean, if you want people to take you seriously about Bitcoin, you need to project that kind of aura.
Yeah, I think they call that bravado.
Bravado, yeah.
It's really a fake it until you make it strategy.
And then when you made it, how do you know? When do you know that you can drop the bravado?
That really is a good question. I think everybody has different definitions of what it means to them for making it. And whether that's ranking number 1 on the Fountain Boost for a week, whether that's ranking number 1 on Wavlake, having a number 1 trending song on there for a period of time, whether that's speaking at the conference on the main stage, whether that's speaking on the conference on one of the side stages, whether that's going on What Bitcoin Did with Danny Knowles, or going on TFTC with Marty, or
Oh yeah, I mean, think about how many people who have been working really hard, maybe they've got a little bit too much bravado, but they got to the Sailor 100K yacht party and they realized, I am now spending New Year's Eve with people like Neil Jacobs and the crypto couple. I have made it. This is what I've been working so hard for. I can drop it. I made it to the club.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for some people, they think they make it when they hang out with their heroes in person. The people that orange pilled them. That might, to them, feel like they make it. And, I think a lot of people, what they're just searching for, the level of satisfaction that they want to experience is just being able to provide for their family and having been able to afford taxes for their year. So, different people have different levels of ambition. I think for Dennis Porter, for example, like, you could tell he's still hungry. He's achieved a lot, right? He got banned from the Bitcoin conference. He has a big social media following. He gets invited. He's been on everybody's podcast except for ours. He's been around. He's been around the block, to say the least. But in his mind, the next tick on his checklist is to become a U.S. Senator, and then after that to become the President of the United States. And so that's like a different level of ambition than just wanting to pay your taxes and hang out with your favorite Bitcoin podcaster.
Well, and you can tell who that applies to. Some people are at a Sailor Yacht Party and they're just happy to see anybody that they recognize from Twitter or from Fountain, and to be able to talk to them and hang out with them. And there's some people who they're not satisfied with just being able to pay their taxes. They want to orange pill the Senate. They want to orange pill. They want to be a part of the strategic Bitcoin reserve. They want to build the next cyber warfare protocol for the CIA and the Navy SEALs on Bitcoin. And those people don't have time to just hang out with any podcaster that happens to also be paying their taxes and going to sailor parties. They need to talk to the elite. And it's just a matter of recognizing who values their time at a party like the Sailor Yacht Party and who is really focused on talking to the people who can afford their taxes the most.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's any time you are at a Bitcoin event, you're going to be under more pressure, and your time is going to be much more valuable. The more you are able to afford a higher tax, the most taxes. So that is a signal of power, and that's going to attract podcasters, politicians, feds, and friends. And you just have to be able to navigate that.
Totally. Well, kind of getting into the numbers for this year, so I just want to talk about what we've accomplished as the Bugle. It's kind of hard to... I don't think we got a whole lot of direct donations on BTC Pay server this year. I feel like year prior in 2023, which...
We got a lot more found boosts.
Yeah.
A lot more found boosts. And
definitely the year of the fountain boost.
2024 was also, it feels like a lot longer ago. If you're thinking back to 2024, the ETF, will it or will it not be approved? Well, is the SEC's tweet, is that real? Can we actually trust the SEC to tweet, not something psyopy? And people just, they laughed when the Bugle tried to talk about our credentials and how important credentials were. They don't laugh anymore. We put credentials back on the map. We reoriented people's attention away from the mainstream media into Bitcoin podcasts. And I think that is probably our biggest success, which is harder to measure with fountain boosts.
I agree. Well, looking at a year in recap. So the Bugle Weekly earned 4.3 million sats, which is a very impressive number, in my opinion.
It usually takes a podcast a lot longer to generate millions in revenue, but we did it first year, not even a full year. Millions in revenue. That's a success story.
Let's see how many cigarettes that buys. So 4.3 million.
Yeah, put that in perspective. A million's a lot. It's hard to fathom.
That's 4,300 cigarettes.
If you say that it takes how long to smoke a cigarette? 5 minutes. How much time did you just buy with Bitcoin? Your future is measured in time. How much time did you purchase, or did you earn, or did we earn to be able to smoke a cigarette? It just be bullish.
4,300 times 5. That's a long cigarette. I think you're thinking you're smoking American spirits and let's burn a little faster. So that's 21,500 minutes.
21,500 minutes. If money is time, we just earned 21,000 minutes to smoke cigarettes and not to worry about anything else.
Yeah. Some more numbers to just put this in perspective. That's 215 packs of cigarettes or 21 and a half cartons of cigarettes.
There's I keep hearing that number 21.
Yeah, it's a very magical number. It shows up everywhere. I mean, it's like one of the things about listening to enough Bitcoin podcasts is you start to see the world divided by 21 million, and you just see that become more of a reality. Everywhere you look, you see the number 21. You just divide things by 21 million. You divide things by 21 and a half cartons of cigarettes.
Oh yeah, don't think about it. People are like, they criticize Bitcoin and they say, oh, you still denominate everything in USDT. Nobody's ever going to nominate everything in Bitcoin. You always nominate in USDT. But, or they're mad that, oh, sats need to be the standard. Sats are the standard. And maybe what definitely is the standard is 21 million. And more people, as Bitcoin has already won, start to see the M2 money supply divided by 21 million. They start to see the bond market divided by 21 million, the real estate market divided by 21 million, and everything they see, and they say, wow, that is an expensive fucking part. The inflation's, let me divide that by 21 million. And that's your denomination in Bitcoin. 21 million is the standard.
So out of those 4.3 million sats, that came from 148 different supporters. So the Bugle Weekly had 128 different boosters throughout the year.
Does that count all those pies individual boosts, or does that aggregate those into, because pies would have been way more than 121?
Right, that's all the different accounts, is the way I think it.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, I mean, there's definitely a potential that the boosters, some of them didn't have founding accounts, and so they came up as anonymous users, so it could be less. I don't think it could be.
That's why some people use Nostr. They want that privacy. The privacy is a little more important to them. They don't want to end up in somebody else's fountain rewind, and the wrong eyes see that.
Yeah, the like if you average out the amount of sats. This isn't how it works. Like, some people boosted more than others, but if you averaged out the total sats that we received across the 128 different people that boosted us, it comes out to 33,593 sats per booster, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's another magic number.
Yeah, let's calculate the USDT value of that just to give people perspective. So today, the sats per USDT rate is 1,061. But it's kind of nice with Bitcoin operating around this range because it makes the sat to USDT conversion incredibly easy. Right around that number, round number.
Yeah, this is a great time for people to be paying attention to Bitcoin a little bit more closely and kind of, with nearly 100K, just makes that SAP conversion. It makes everything way easier. That's why this is just the beginning of the bull market, I think.
Yeah, that's about $31 a person. Works out 31 USDT per person. I don't know. That's pretty good if you think about it. I'd like to encourage people to boost more.
Oh yeah. I mean, I spent 1.6 million sats boosting podcasts in 2024, and I think I'm proud to be in the 1 million plus club, and I think that everybody should strive to invest 1 million sats per year minimum into the value for value economy, because I earned way more than 1.6 million sats back from the value for value economy through my podcast and through Noster and through Wavlake. So it's probably been the best performing investment I've made other than Bitcoin directly.
Is there an easy way to see your Noster boost that you received over the year?
No, there's nothing that's easy to do on Noster.
That's not surprising. Yeah, I mean, I boosted. I was less than you, but I boosted 925,000 sats. Most of it was the 3 shows that I sent the majority of the boost to were Ungovernable Misfits, High Hash Rate, and Rock Paper Bitcoin. I feel like I owe Rock Paper Bitcoin more. It's just, it's really hard with their show because they put it out every other week. So it's kind of hard to catch a rhythm with listening to it. Whereas a lot of other shows are more regular.
The other problem with Rock Paper Bitcoin is it's such a good podcast, but they don't promote it and market it. So they need to promote their podcast more. Because sometimes I'll forget if it came out because they didn't tweet about it or they didn't send it to the group chat. So, you know what I mean? Like if I miss it, it's like, dang, I missed one of my favorite Bitcoin podcasts. But if they advertised, I'd never forget.
You would think that Fundamentals would be a little bit better at that, seeing that he's kind of hereditarily predispositioned to be successful in media. You know what I mean?
Right. Not only is he should know better. Not only has he been trained for the media, predisposition, for the media and for finances and for economics. So he should know better. So he doesn't have an excuse not to do it.
My boosting puts me, according to Fountain, in the top 1% of boosters on the platform.
Me as well. Yeah. We are the 1%.
I think it's really important to be engaged in the value for value economy as much as possible. Like, it can't just be a one-way street. You know what I mean? Because
right.
The mission to this is to destroy PodConf, and we need the economy to grow. And like, sometimes to get the economy to grow, you have to spend into it. We don't have government agencies subsidizing the value for value economy. So the podcasters have to subsidize it themselves.
Yeah, and that's what I wouldn't do. That's my point about Fundamentals. And it's not just him. It's that to engage in the value for value economy, sometimes you have to be so proud of the work that you're doing, of the value that you're providing, that you boost, like Von Miner. He boosts us, he engages with us in V4V. He's like, hey, look at this spicy beef jerky that I have. So I go and buy spicy beef jerky from him. And other people are saying, hey, look at this Bitcoin podcast I recorded or this article I wrote. And they zap you or they send you the sats. And they're paying you value because they know that their product or their content is going to be worth your time. And that's how you start that exchange. You build that market, that relationship. And you start to see whether you can partner or where you can team up with them and where you're most valuable for each other, where you can provide for each other. You can have a thermodynamically sound venture.
Totally. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, our top supporters for the year, let me just go through this real quick. So John from Ungovernable Misfits is number 1. Or he came in first place with 7,000 sats. Very impressive boost numbers right there. Number 2 was Miss Hoddlenot, 420. Your fling. That happened in 2024. I guess that was kind of a big thing. She boosted us 382,000 sats. Fundamentals came in 3rd place. So this is a very impressive accomplishment for the Bugle. We were able to get 367,000 sats out of the hands of a Jewish man.
That's how you know, and that's how you measure. That is how you measure it right there.
I kind of think that fundamental. So John, just based on the preliminary knowledge that we have, based on him just boosting this show, he's probably in the 1%, top 1% of Fountain boosters. It'd be interesting to get fundamentals because his stats, because I figure he's probably in the top 1%. I feel like his numbers are similar to yours and mine. He's probably close to 1 million sats or more, because I know fundamentals boost other shows besides our show. But I just wanted to say, so those are the top 3. So John, Miss Hoddlenot, and then fundamentals. Number 4 is We All Eat. Big supporter of the show. So one of the things I want to say about We All Eat is this individual has contributed to the Bugle pretty much from the very beginning in a variety of ways, and want to shoot him a big thank you for all of his support. He calls us gay and faggots periodically, though. I don't really know what to make of that.
Well, that's, when you have contributed enough value to a value for value relationship, you get to call the other person retarded. And, it's not a negative.
Well, let's expand this to like romantic relationships. So like how much do you have to give your wife or your girlfriend to be able to call her retarded? I guess it kind of depends on the individual, but
it's all about trade-offs.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, sometimes you might get a girl who you don't have to contribute any value and you can get away with it right away, but she probably will be retarded. And that's why it's not going to be worth it. But you could find somebody who you have to contribute a lot of value before you get to call them that. But it might be better overall. Or better than what they have. So. But got to meet some of our biggest boosters this year for the first time. So, Miss Hoddlenot was probably the most talked about, the most salacious, but I got to meet a bunch of other people as well and created some pretty good friendships, and then looking forward to trying to meet them in person and trying to get them to boost me more sats on Fountain in the future.
Yeah, let me blast through the rest of this list of our top boosters. So after We All Eat at number 4, we have Stackatoshi at number 5 for 316,260 sats. We got like I remember this, so I think we only got like a handful of boosts from Stackatoshi, but they were mostly large. And there was
he was whale boosting.
Yeah. There was a contest at one point of different individuals. I think John got a little bit frustrated because Stackatoshi sent us 100,000 sat boost, and I mentioned that. And all of a sudden, John was like, I need to send a bigger boost. And then Fundamentals came in and said that he needed to send a bigger boost too. So they were all kind of like one-upping each other by like 1 sat. And that was pretty funny.
Boosting dick measuring contest. That was funny.
Yep. And then we had Orange Mart and Open Mic. So Open Mic, 154,000 sats. Thank you, Open Mic. And then Orange Mart for 138,000 sats. Open Mic created this trend, which is interesting, which is the Bugle Mile High Club. So he likes to listen to the Bugle when he's on the airplane. I guess Open Mic's the creator of it's called Toonster, right? I get that right?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. And they had some live event in Texas recently, Austin, with Fountain, right?
Yeah. So, there's different individuals trying to produce content on these value for value platforms, and then there's people like Open Mic that are building the value platforms. I could see us using Toonster in the future, when we're at the point where we're performing music live. That's a good platform that I plan on using.
So we will use Zap.stream more in the future.
Yeah, so Toonster is very similar to Zap.stream as far as I can tell. The biggest difference is it seems to have more of a music focus instead of just like a general streaming focus. One of the things that I really wanted to do over this past year, which I didn't really get around to do, is do a lot of live streams playing video games. I wanted to play some Call of Duty and live stream that, but we didn't get around to do that. I think
it's the bull market. It's like playing video games. That's what you do in the bear market, but in the bull market, it's just too busy.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, if you can't code, then you can't build in the bear market. So there's nothing for you to do. If you're not a developer, Bitcoin doesn't need you during the bear market. You're just kind of an annoying drag potentially. So that's when you should just focus on playing video games. When the bull market's coming, that's when you need to be orange pilling people. You need to be stacking sats. You need to be engaged. But in the bear market, if you get really good taxes, just feel free to play video games.
Yeah. I think the problem is I just didn't find anybody to do it with. And I did go to the Orange Mart and Monologue. That was an event that was pretty interesting. So the last booster on our list of top boosters is the Orange Mart, who I'm a big fan. I unfortunately didn't spend as much time there as I wanted to. And I think the problem is that the level of commitment required to get sufficiently good enough at Rust to understand what you're doing, to even be able to figure out how to wear clothes. Like, when I went there, I was naked. I couldn't figure out where to find clothes or how to make clothes. And fortunately, somebody provided them to me, but I think I lost them after that.
You should just be able to go right away to like a Bitcoin conference and buy a podcast t-shirt, Bitcoin pajama pants, Crocs, orange Crocs. Like, that should be like the very beginning of the game.
Well, I think you can do that in Orange Mart. I just haven't been able to figure out how to do that. I mean, it's like we need BTC sessions to do tutorials on how to play Rust.
Yeah, honestly, that would be the answer. BTC sessions tutorials for Rust. Orange Mart. I mean, they're going to have through the roof. They're going to go IPO.
Totally. It's definitely not. Yeah, it might be that it just takes me a little bit of time to do these things to figure them out. That might be the problem. It might be me. It might not be the Orange Mart. For the average Bitcoin user, they might be able to get in there and understand.
Yeah, there should be some sort of guide, kind of like when you go to buy clothes, like a PodConf t-shirt. It's like a size guide. It talks about like this many inches. It kind of talks about your dimensions and which size you should pick. But it's like if you go to Orange Mart, it's like, how hard is it to figure out Rust? It's like, well, if it took you an hour to figure out a cold card, or it took you a week, or if it took you, 10 minutes to set up a lightning node and learn how to balance your channels, sometimes that takes, some people never figure that out. So you kind of needs to know, like, what level of difficulty is this before I will be like kind of my 40 hours of tutorials completion rate.
I still want to throw a party in Orange Mart. I think that would be a lot of fun at some point.
Yeah, for sure. We do a live show, a live meetup in Orange Mart.
Totally. But yeah, that kind of wraps up top boosters. We were the 11th biggest show on Poundin'.
Don't forget, and we also, before we get out of the boost, didn't the Plug Miners and the Government Misfits point some hash to the Bugle for a while this year, or last year?
Yeah, I don't know if this individual wants us to share that they did it, but we had an individual that did point us hash. So I know John, I don't think John cares, but John pointed, I think, almost a petahash at us for a little bit. And then an individual close to the show who knows who they are, pointed at S9 at us for like the entire winter last year, and that was pretty cool.
They captured the won last year. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it was great. But yeah, I think the 11th biggest show on Fountain was pretty cool. It does suck to see that Mr. Obnoxious was above us. It's not surprising to see Ungovernable Misfits and No Agenda ahead of us and some of these other more established podcasters that have been doing this longer. People have to remember the Bugle Weekly has only existed for a year.
How many SAFs in 2024 did we end up donating to Samurai?
That's a very good question. I don't have the number on it, but I would assume it's probably close to 500,000 sats. That's what I would estimate it at.
I see. Yeah, just a side effect of a value for value is just payment splits, which help you easily redirect some of your energy, some of your sats to causes like that, to the defense, to fight against the state and the feds, who are. It shouldn't be illegal to launder money in a democracy. And that's just something we stand for.
Yeah, I didn't do a payment split. I asked the Bitcoin Policy Institute to set up a Fountain account so that we could do the payment splits, but they never got around to it. So I was just donating manually on p2prights.org, which is a great website that you could go over and donate. Yeah.
So some people, it's a nature of the bull market, but just all this drama between Bitcoin Magazine, David Bailey, Dennis Porter, and EPI about who's behind the strategic Bitcoin reserve kind of takes up time, and it takes up resources that could have been going towards fighting for the Samurai devs. All they had to do was make that account, and they wouldn't even put that much of effort into defending them. So make sure it lets you know they weren't really studying case law there in the offices.
Yeah, I would pin all of that on David Bailey. It's all his fault. All the drama taken away from people supporting Samurai.
Yeah, it's tough. But yeah, it's we got a lot of fountain boosts, and I was also curious about Wavlake music. That was a huge debut, and it's grown really quickly.
Yeah, I was doing the math, and it's kind of hard to do math and have a conversation at the same time. I was trying to add up all the it only shows me the income from the top 10 songs, but my top song, boosted song, Use Your Brain, earned 85,741 sats. The second one, Marty Says His Time Is Different, earned 75,407 sats. And yeah, it goes on, but I probably earned like 250, 300, 400,000 sats potentially total.
Yeah, I'm looking through mine. It was a little over 200,000 sats. But it's a relatively small catalog. But number one, and this was a big hit, was Girls on Spaces. Girls on Spaces was definitely a pop one that was really popular. Orange-Pilled Cowboys was next. My Digital Treasure, the one, which is about Dennis Porter, which is a really good one. And if you're hearing about Dennis Porter more and more lately, go back and check that one out. It'll explain the backstory, because he doesn't have much of a backstory available outside that music. And then there was Miss the Days, which is my debut. All pretty much pop music, but it's fun. And it's got funny lyrics. Music is fun. You are definitely more of a musician than I am. You've got a lot bigger catalog. What are you thinking about for their next album?
Well, I'm trying to figure out or finish the Use Your Brain album that I have going on right now. and I think this is my best album to date. I've got 3 songs published on it so far. I try to get out roughly 10. The general theme is kind of like rock slash synthwave type rock, and I want to stick with that. So I've got a song that I should be releasing relatively soon called The Battle Is Not Lost, and I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, I just want to keep on cranking on User Brain. I think I'm going to save The Battle Is Not Lost. I feel pretty good about it, so I think I'm going to save it for the Bugles, but I might release a song first and then do the music video with it, because I'm pretty pumped on the music video as well. But kind of my goal for 2025, so I'm in the process of relearning piano. So when I was a kid, around the time that I started smoking cigarettes at 6 years old, I began learning the piano, and I ended up, when I went off to get my credentials in college, I ended up stopping and playing piano. So I've been spending some time relearning the piano. I spent a couple hours on that today. I plan on doing that in the future. I've been thinking about taking some voice lessons, and I am planning on doing likely some guitar lessons as well, because I think it'd be really fun to perform a lot of this music. And I kind of have this vision of, like, you know, singing, playing the piano / playing the guitar on Tunester, having Rayo play the drums, and getting some of my friends to, you know, be involved with the music so that we could do live performances for people. Because I really think that's the future of music. I think we have to move back to being more analog in this world of pseudo spoofing and nonsense. But like most of the stuff you hear on the radio these days it's all computer generated for the most part. Like, a lot of people's voices are being auto-tuned, and you can kind of see it where there's like a huge difference between their live singing voice and the radio overly produced voice. And so I want to see more live stuff, and I want to participate in that and encourage that. And it's cool to see platforms like Tunester getting built out to be able to earn cigarette money right off the bat.
Yeah. Just because you're a starving artist doesn't mean you don't serve cigarettes to smoke.
Totally. Yeah, I think it's only a matter of time before music really takes off, and having a big catalog is interesting, but I want to keep on cranking on it. I've definitely felt a rekindled desire to really take music seriously, and I think probably the problem of why I didn't pursue it in the past is I just didn't really see where I could implement it in my life, because my life was all around journalism, and journalism and music don't typically go together. But like in this new medium of podcast journalism, music is, I think, very complementary to it.
Absolutely, yeah. In the new era of Bitcoin podcast journalism, you don't have a network to make you a logo. You don't have a network to do you an intro song and to make graphics and to do crazy swirly things and show breaking news. You don't have a jingle. You don't have commercials being made for you. You don't have like a newspaper logo. You have to make that all yourself. And it helps you. It just saves time. It's just, it helps you be more efficient. You have to be more thermodynamically sound with your time to cover everything and capture the mood.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we'll probably bring more musicians into the mix. There's been a new one that I've been pretty excited about that bursted onto the Wavlake scene the last couple of weeks, called Run Dance. Putting out some killer tunes.
What about that Australian Kai or whatever, Armageddon?
I may. Yeah. she's been a big addition to Wavlake. So this Australian singer put out a song called Carmageddon, and it is killing it on Wavlake and going viral around the world.
It's very based. It is one of the best examples of a smoking hot blonde singing a very non-compliant but also hit song.
Do you want to sing a couple of the lines? Or do you want me to, so that the listener knows what we're talking about? They probably haven't heard of it.
Yeah. You were analyzing the structure of the song. You should definitely share your favorite chorus or lyric there.
Man-made virus, watch the millions die. Biggest profits of their lives. Here's inflation, that's your prize. This is Carmageddon. Those are probably my favorite lines.
I too know that was what was in the viral videos as well, so you should definitely check that out. Before we get into the fountain boost for this episode, we want to provide a little bit of an update on the Bugles. So there's a lot of anticipation for that, and we're working very hard to set everything up to secure the venue, secure the streaming rights. One of the biggest tasks was the Bugle Award itself, which is going to be, we're really excited to debut that. However, we had them made, and they were in a storage warehouse in the Los Angeles area. And during the wildfires, we suspect that a Fed, a spook, a CIA asset in the area, one of the people setting fires throughout the city, used that as an opportunity to burn down our storage unit and sabotage the Bugles a little bit. But we're happy to announce that we're working with Crypto Cloaks now to redo the Bugle Awards. But we're working really hard, and we're expecting that to come sometime instead of January, we'll think in February, late February, maybe early March, but we will give you a date on that very soon, so stay tuned.
So, very excited about it. It's going to be one of the greatest spectacles that you've ever seen.
And there will be cigarette smoking allowed at this award show. So do not think that you won't be able to smoke at your table, smoke wherever you're watching. You'll be able to enjoy cigarette.
Very unfortunate what's happening in Los Angeles. I think it has been very disruptive to the Bitcoin podcast community. It's also been very disruptive to Hollywood.
I think I'm really excited next week to get into. We'll know a lot more about what's going on with this fire and what the outcome is going to result to be. And we can definitely get into some of the drama, some of the politics, and some of why we think that its time is up for Hollywood, and it's kind of metaphoric in this fire. But I'm excited to talk about that next week.
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson, without going into it too much, is when you're trying to determine how much of a Bitcoin stack you should have, you should be able to afford, if your house burns down and your insurance company pulls your fire insurance weeks before your house burns down, enough to rebuild, but then also afford your property taxes in the process. Like, I think that's one of the challenges facing a lot of people, is they're not prepared to be able to both afford to rebuild and to afford to pay their taxes. A lot of people are really in a tough position right now.
Right. That is where we are, and it's kind of endemic to the rest of the country in a lot of ways. We can afford to pay our taxes right now, and some of us are doing very well, but most of us cannot afford a tragedy, and to recover from a tragedy and still be able to pay our taxes.
California is one of the hardest states to be able to afford your taxes.
Right. It's the government. It does. If you want to live in Malibu, if you want to live in the Pacific Palisades or Brentwood neighborhoods, you are going to have to pay a lot of taxes because they don't want you there. And they try hard to not day to be there. They try to make it hard for you to get there. They don't want you to have access to that, unless you can really afford to pay your taxes.
You have to be a Bitcoin holder to be able to afford to live in California. Like, that's the reality that we're facing today. Yeah, let's get into the fountain boost though. First boost, starting out the year strong, is John from Ungovernable Misfits, 88,888 sats. John says, press forward with vim and rigor. And then a salute emoji.
I can't think of a better way for a tier 1 fountain booster, such as John or us, than an 88,000 sat boost. Straight to the point. Thank you so much, John. I mean, it's been an honor. It's been an honor dominating Fountain with you and everybody over at the Ungovernable Misfits.
It really has been a fun year with those guys. I really appreciate those guys. They've been reading Bugle stories on the regular. Big supporters of the show, pretty much since day one. Really appreciate those guys. Thank you.
Yeah, it's they get it. It's sometimes people just get it, and you get each other. The next one is from none other than, again, one of our closest buddies, people that have been a highlight of this Bitcoin podcast in the last year, Shadrach. He's asking when XMR chat, he says 9,000 sats. So yeah, do you have an update on that, Richard? We're gonna, first of all, we needed to get Monero wallets because we have to do that to try to get Kaylee back from the Monero Bros. So we're trying to rescue our girl, get our producer back. But we're going to set up XMR chat, right? So we can transact more adversarially with some of our fans.
Well, I think we need to have a discussion. Do we want to become shitcoiners? Are we okay with that?
Hey, I'm under the belief that I will accept if somebody wants to pay me in Monero, if they want to boost this podcast in Monero, I will accept that. I welcome their listenership. But I will respect their right to privacy and not read their boosts.
Is that?
And if you do want to, if you can just let us know if you want to be doxxed, then we'll read your boost. But I just don't think that many Monero boosters are. But I think they want to stay private. That's my assumption.
I'm going to read Linkin Park rules right now because he was the first person, or it might have been Max that was telling me about XMR chat. I just Googled it and I couldn't seem to find it. So
I know, I'm a tolerant person. I totally respect and accept Monero Bros, but I just don't think they should force me to celebrate it. Celebrate Monero from a Bitcoin bro.
I don't really have any issues personally with Monero. The problem with it, there's like some structural issues with it that I think are pretty obvious on its face. The first structural issue is that it's not Bitcoin, which means it's not thermodynamically sound.
It has a really low hash rate, and they try to say that doesn't matter, but I think that it's just talking in circles, because they're embarrassed that they don't have a high hash rate like Bitcoin does. People don't mind. You can't mine Monero with a BitAxe, and that when people find that out, they're pretty disappointed.
Totally. It is very disappointing that you can't mine with a BitAxe. That there's no doodad that you can buy in order to do it. Because that's like one thing that's really interesting about Bitcoiners. They have really high standards around this, where instead of just, using a general purpose typewriter, they need to buy a specific single use device, right? They need to buy a node in the box instead of spinning up a node or a node on just a general purpose device. And I'm not really sure why that is, because it doesn't really seem very logically consistent to me. It might just be that it's their dedication to podcast listening, right? They want to support the sponsors of their favorite podcast by buying their doodads in order to make sure that those companies continue to sponsor the podcasts they listen to. And if that's the motivation, I think that's a very noble reason why. But
I just don't like the fact that it's an open market. They don't give you the sovereignty to mine Monero on whatever device you choose. It's like Apple. You can't change anything. It's like you can only use a CPU. Well, I might have GPUs because I like to game, or I might have GPUs because I am in AI. I might have an ASIC. What if I need to heat my house in the wintertime? I'm going to be punished for owning ASICs and not allowed to mine Monero. I don't need computers. I need ASICs to heat my home. But they say that they do that because they don't want big companies to adopt their currency for their balance sheet. They don't want those companies to take over the hash rate. But that just means to me that they must not be confident in the game theory and the incentives of their protocol if they're worried about companies adding it to the balance sheet.
Well, I mean, this is a pretty good marketing tactic. If you can't be number one, you know what I mean? You have to pretend like being number one doesn't matter.
Right, like being number one is a trade-off.
Exactly. Like if you're not number one, all you do is, and we do this with Peter McCormick to some extent. You know, you're like, we can't be Peter McCormick, so we have to rag on him all the time as far as why being number one doesn't matter.
Right, exactly. It's like we want to be number one so bad, and we can't handle we understand like other people don't see why we're number one. So we have to make up some handicaps. You know, we're better at other things. We have better video quality. We have better audio quality. We have, it's easier to listen to I mean, this excuse is not our fault.
Well, I mean, there's some things that we do seriously better than Peter McCormick, which are pretty obvious to the average listener. So the first self-apparent thing that isn't really worth the time explaining, but I will anyways, is we're both American, which makes us both better by default, right? Our nation has the world reserve currency. We have the best memes. We have the most missiles. We have the most or second most nuclear weapons. Our nation invented nuclear weapons.
Right. That's it. This is core to the reason that we're better. People like Peter and people like Alex Gladstein, they spread this misinformation that the people who need Bitcoin most are people in the global south. The people who need Bitcoin most are people in the it's people who are on the dollar standard. The US dollar is the reserve currency. The people who need Bitcoin most are the people who are the biggest victims of that, which are American citizens and just people who live in the industrialized West, where the dollar is the most dominant.
Yeah, I mean, because the dollar isn't that special. Like, when you live in the global South, you don't really need Bitcoin because you can have Tether, right? But in the U.S., you don't really need the use of Tether, right? You need the use of Bitcoin. We need it.
Exactly. It's it's like you said, the influence here of fiat is just so much stronger. The psyops in the U.S. government media, in the Western media, are just so much more expensive. And it's similar to the problem with Monero. When the hash rate isn't dominated by the most thermodynamically sound operators, the most thermodynamically sound Monero podcast listeners, the value of the network suffers. And the people with the most thermodynamically sound people in the United States, in the global West, are Bitcoiners. They are Bitcoin podcasters, people that have access to dollars and who can who can buy the most Bitcoin. And it's they're just better capital allocators.
Yeah. I mean, the whole idea of having an ASIC resistant cryptocurrency is kind of silly, because you take the potential from Bitmain. Like, here's your two choices if you create a cryptocurrency, right? Or actually, there's three choices as far as who controls it. So if you're allowing for staking on your cryptocurrency, if you go proof of stake, the exchanges control it, right? Because they're typically going to be the biggest holders of the currency, especially if it's a newer one that is pre-mined.
So to sum that up, in a proof of stake blockchain, the merchant class controls consensus.
Yeah, I would argue that. If you're doing just kind of general proof of work, if you pick an algorithm and you stick with it, then Bitmain's going to control it, the biggest user or producer of hardware, and arguably one of the biggest controllers of the mining pools infrastructure. And then if you do an ASIC resistant cryptocurrency like Monero, where you change the hashing algorithm regularly so that nobody can develop an ASIC for it, then who has the most CPUs in the world? There's like a few entities that have a lot of CPUs, right?
Well, the Department of State, the CIA, the Pentagon, they're full of desktop computers, libraries. Just the state is behind, so they have just tons of computers. They think the PC is important, and they can just turn half of the government. What do they say? It's more than half. It's like 90% of the federal government has not gone back to work since COVID stay-at-home policies. That means there are hundreds of acres of Pentagon offices full of computers running every day that nobody has to use, that they could be mining Monero with it. And that makes the most sense, because it's just numbers. It's just probabilities that the CIA is running all the Monero nodes.
Totally. Or Amazon Web Services, which sometimes it's hard to differentiate.
Exactly. Yeah, so or Azure, so like Bill Gates cloud.
So I mean, the question is, who do you want controlling your cryptocurrency? Do you want it to be Bitmain? Do you want it to be Coinbase and Binance, or do you want it to be the CIA and Amazon? And that's not.
And all those guys' computer data is controlled by Peter Thiel.
Yeah. I mean, that's not really an easy question to answer, but just on its face, I don't think I want the CIA and the NSA controlling the network, or at least having the most hash rate.
Yeah, that's exactly. If you just don't want to give the CIA the ability to rewrite history, and if you're operating on a protocol, whether it's on chain or some higher level, maybe some abstract social layer in your community, you just don't want to be around people. You just don't want to transact with people who are all willing to let the CIA rewrite their history and go along with it and find hard fork if the website tells them to twice a year. That sums it up. You just don't want somebody who will hard fork their entire consensus model for reality based on what a website says every couple of months. It's just the world's Jimmy Siles out there.
Totally. So, I mean, that's a really long answer, Shadrach, to win XMR chat. So I think we're okay with being little bits of shitcoiners, right? To dabble a little bit, to just dip our toes in to see what the free market thinks. We're not going to go full see what the free market thinks. But yeah, depending on how
I will say this. if somebody offered to sell me non-KYC feed pics, I would always use Monero.
Yeah. Why is that?
Yeah. I just think that is, I don't want my wife or my girlfriend to look at my taxes and see that we can't afford taxes because I spent, some Bitcoin that was at 1,000% gain on some Winald and non-KYC feed pics. I would rather take my chances that only a couple of CIA spooks would know that. And that it just doesn't show up on my taxes.
Interesting.
Which is a use case, yeah.
To nicely answer your question, Shadrach, because you asked a question on the agenda, and I'll get it set up as soon as Linkin Park Rules helps me out with it. So it's all kind of dependent on his response time. And I know he's a real busy guy. So hopefully it'll be by next week, but I can't even find it on Google. It's so private you can't even find it in a browser search or search engine. Next boost is from Pies for 1,000 sats. Says LFG, the Bugles award show. I'm considering throwing a listen party where all that would be served is locally sourced alcohol and non-KYC cigarettes with mixed tobacco and weed. Okay, so this is a really interesting idea. Maybe what we should do is we should have live streams going across the country, across the world for different watch parties of the Bugles and do short interviews locally, and we could beam in to the audience and their reactions in the watch parties.
That's perfect. I think we should do that. We should definitely incorporate those into the feed, and then we can also find ways to let them react and do reaction interviews to did they think did Philly think Philadelphia, did they think that was the best Bitcoin podcast, or did the guys down in Los Angeles or the guys in Florida? There's probably everybody's like a little give their contribute somehow.
I agree. I think that's a great idea, Pies. I would highly encourage you do that, and please reach out to me however you deem is best. Telegram works probably the best for me. That's how I prefer to communicate. But we can work out a different way if you're really against using Telegram. It's just
I think for some reason this is unrelated. I just feel like Pies probably hits on girls in his local area from Facebook Messenger. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know, Pies.
Speaking of Facebook Messenger, did you see that? Did you see any of the podcasts that Zuckerberg did with Joe Rogan?
Oh yeah. That was what I was really hoping to get on the agenda next week as well, with what's going on. This entire government vibe shift that's hitting this year.
Yeah, maybe we'll say that for next week. I will say, I just want to give a little hint about it. So I don't know if the interview is really worth listening. You should probably be listening to Bitcoin podcasts instead of Rogan. But Zuckerberg essentially blamed all the censorship on Facebook's HR department and the government. And he said, what can I do? Our hands are tied. HR departments, all they want to do is comply. The government was yelling at them to ban memes. I'm too busy, building this innovative future to be focused entirely on content moderation. We left that up to HR. So yeah, he's kind of.
Yeah, I don't trust. That's why I use Facebook. I do not trust a company that leaves that big of a duty and responsibility to its users up to HR.
Yeah, I think it's a really bad move, and it sounds like there's this general shift. Like he slapped HR on the wrist and is like, "Hey, you guys got to knock this off and quit being so lame." But I think it's also part of the shift in just moving to Trump's America is, I don't think Trump's administration is going to be yelling at social media companies, HR departments to censor in the same way.
Oh yeah, definitely not. Trump will just will say it on Twitter or X directly, so it's straight to the people. Hell yeah. We'll blast in the last few years. We got 333 sats from wartime, and it does cheers to alcohol. Cheers, wartime. Thank you for listening and for boosting. So got a BTC on board, hashtag LEnhance or hashtag CTV with 300 sats. And he sent us 2 lightning emojis, 2 fire emojis. Thank you, BTC on board. Pies again. Yo. And then a bunch of mushroom and cigarette emojis, another 100 sats. Thanks, Pies, for coming back and hitting us again for... I assume that means we were one of your favorites. You listened to it twice.
Thank you very much, Pies, and BTC on board and wartime. Appreciate it. Yeah, I guess that wraps up the show for today. And do you have anything before we close?
I just think that the God handle the Trump orange pill extravaganza. It's coming. It's coming a week from, I think, when this will come out. The bull market is not even barely begun. And when the number goes up, the psyops are going to go with it. And I think we're going to start seeing that, and we're going to get into that next week because it's already starting.
Yeah. There's a whole nother year of psyops to prepare for. The important tactics in order to make yourself psyop proof. Just give you a sneak preview. I think you probably already know, but number 1 on the list, smoke cigarettes to vaccinate yourself against CIA psyops.
Yeah, I think the next few months, people may be able to take the Bugle podcast episodes and use it because we're going to kind of give you a cypherpunk survival guide to the bull market.
Looking forward to it, and we'll catch you next week on the Bugle Weekly.
Later.
Look around and see life passing like a dream. Numb the pain you feel and pretend like it isn't real. Marching orders coming in, telling you to commit mortal sins. It is exactly what you think. The world is approaching the brink. Funding conflict on both sides. The shadow banker hides. The tide is rolling in. The TV spewing spin. The battle is not lost, but winning has a cost. Hiding won't keep you safe. This is your call to be brave. Surveillance and war is just a challenge to be more. Darkness will only prevail if your courage fails. The world around you is on fire. You wanna change it, but you are tired. Hope is in short supply, crushed by their endless lies. Remember, you are not alone. The future is not set in stone. If not you, then who will? Are you ready to chase the thrill? Are you ready to really live? Funding conflict on both sides. The shadow banker hides. The tide is rolling in. The TV spewing spin. The battle is not lost, but winning has a cost. Hiding won't keep you safe. This is your call to be brave. Surveillance and war is just a challenge to be more. Darkness will only prevail if your courage fails. The tyrants will send their goons, but there's more of us. They may have bombs and platoons. Weekly.